What does the road to redemption look like for these women who are going from being paid for to being a 35-year-old mother of 2 and married to a high-value male?
High-value man.
A high-value man, a HVM. Not a trick. Not a trick. What do you do? Well, look, a gal wrote into me one time and said, Michael, I'm listening to your show, and I do OnlyFans, and I just found out that a member of my family, an uncle or something, is subscribed to my OnlyFans, and I don't know what to do about it, and should I write in, whatever. And I said, okay, first thing you do, stop doing OnlyFans. That would be the very first thing I would recommend doing. Second thing, I don't know if you want to rat your uncle out. I don't know if it's like a fake name or something. Maybe it's another guy with the guy. I don't know. But the very first thing that I would recommend doing is stop that. You know, it's like if you're going down the road and you're going down the wrong road, then the very first thing you got to do is stop walking and like turn around and go in a different direction. And it's easier.
Why is he like subscribed though? Like that's
why is it not?
That guy, because he's a total like degenerate, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's on him.
Yeah.
It's on
that's on the uncle.
The only thing
that's on the uncle.
Right. The only thing she can control is this bad thing that she's doing.
Well,
you're not recognizing the real issue.
She could also do that, but it doesn't solve the problem.
Her uncle is having this fantasy about someone he's related to. That's the real problem.
It's completely disgusting.
So I feel like.
But is that really
it doesn't matter.
That's a problem. That's a consequent problem, and it could be.
If she does OnlyFans, it's just like at the end of the day, even if she doesn't have OnlyFans, he's still going to be.
To the question that was asked, the question is, how do you go from you're doing OnlyFans to marrying the 35-year-old millionaire and getting kids and everything? And the blunt answer is the very first thing you do is stop. But the very first thing you do actually is go to church as much as you want to, and like once a month is a good start. And then that kind of starts to change your mind. And then at a certain point, the next thing you do is you stop doing OnlyFans and you just do anything else. And I don't know what it is.
I believe in God, even though I partake in
of course. Many such cases. Many such. So, but it's very even when one changes one's mind, it's a little more difficult to change behavior. So the very first thing you got to do is just stop doing the thing that seems to be causing the problem. And we have some disagreement, but some agreement about whether or not this is like problematic behavior that is causing you to not quite get to the 35-year-old millionaire with 2 kids stage. And so you do that, and then you take the next step in front of you. So the next step might be some other job. The next step might be meeting guys at places where you find better guys.
Both? What if we can have an OnlyFans and then we can still meet the person we're supposed to end up with and still end up with the 2 kids and still end up with the house and the life and still have had this time in our 20s?
I think that's what makes people mad is we why do we can have our cake and eat it too.
Our job.
Because
people get mad.
Because you can't, the expression you just used, no, but like the expression you just used, why can't I have my cake and eat it too, describes an impossibility. Because if you eat your cake, you can't still have your cake. So you might have unwittingly used that phrase, but what you're describing is something that's mutually contradictory. Because the guy who, look, maybe you can find some rich degen.
How I worded it is they're pissed that we can.
But with the phrase, it's like it's literally impossible to do that. You can't.
Regardless of the phrase, what if it went down exactly how I said? We still had our 20s. We still had this time to do what we're doing right now. And we still end up with the person we're supposed to, married, kids, whatever.
I'm not saying it's not possible.
It's very possible.
But it seems pretty unlikely, and I think we would all agree with that. And look,
none of us agree with that, except you agree with that. None of us agree with that.
A lot of you have said, what I'm doing, it's not really good, and there's all these bad problems.
Did anyone ever say that? Does anyone here feel that what they're doing right now is derailing them from being with the person they're supposed to be with in the end, and the life that they're supposed to end up with?
No, I'm not saying in the end. I'm not saying in the end. I'm saying right now. So I think at least some of you.
But none of us. If we're not looking for a long-term relationship right now, how does that even make sense?
We don't want that. We're not looking for that. All of us are literally saying the same thing.
You're not looking for it, though. One of you just said that look, it takes a while to have a relationship, and maybe it might take a couple of years of dating, and then you get engaged, and so these things don't happen overnight. And it reminds me of people who say, "Hey, man, why can't I just have like a deathbed confession? I live it up, man. I go to Vegas, I do all sorts of crazy stuff, and on my deathbed, which I may or may not get, I'll just convert, and then I go to heaven. That'll be really great, right?" And look, maybe, but really, what happens is people tend to just keep going down the roads that they're on, and the habits that they cultivate become the habits that define their lives, whether it's virtue or vice. And I just think if you believe you're going to keep doing this, and then one day at 34 and a half, you're going to wake up and say, you know what, I'm going to do something totally different now and get Mr. Right, who's not addicted to porn, and get 2 kids and millions of dollars. I just think that's very, very unlikely. And
if you believe in porn addiction.
I think it's more like
you don't believe in porn addiction?
We talked about this earlier. I said I don't believe in porn addiction.
Nicolette.
I think it's more likely that all of us are gonna find like some hot rich guy to marry and take care of us than to like be single for the rest of our lives. Because we've set those standards for ourselves, so we're not gonna accept like anything less.
Is that funny? I mean, like, look at the panel. Like,
we're not gonna die alone. Look at us, we're hot.
I think
it's the longest audio clip.
Yeah,
I know, it's so
amazing.
I think in reference to what you kind of pointed out, I don't know who it was. It was one of you two that said, like, finding a relationship and developing a real one takes a year. I completely agree.
Oh, I did. I did.
And I agree. I completely agree. And I think it shines fault onto your own statement of just, like, you have to leave it immediately and stop so that you can go find the Mr. Right.
Yeah, how do you start?
You don't have
Be
to
friends.
stop. You can become friends. You can
So I have a question for you.
light relationship that develops into, not to cut you, and that's how it kind of
I believe in you, Nicolette.
No, look,
It's gonna happen.
I believe in
I
you.
think you could all do it. What I'm just saying is, it seems likely to me that
Grid
the kind
1
of guys...
Motorsports donated $200. What you feel has nothing to do with how a man you will want is going to feel about you and your past choice. And the new younger hot girls without a history of being naked online will win.
Grid 1 Motorsports, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Michael, you were about to say something.
Yeah. Look, I mean, Grid 1 Motorsports makes a fair enough point. But the other thing is, people change, and your past doesn't necessarily have to define you. But in order for that to happen, it does have to be your past. And so, I think that one would be fooling oneself if you were to say that the kind of guy that I could start dating while doing anything pornographic is just as good and just as normal and conducive to my happiness as a guy that I would meet not doing pornography. I just think the quality is,
Do you guys
that's
agree?
your opinion.
No,
I
but
disagree.
if you've done pornography,
it is my opinion. That's true.
then what does it matter?
Yeah.
You've done pornography, whether you're doing it now or in the past. You've done pornography, so like I don't get
No,
it.
because people change, and we respect that people change. But I do think it's sort of like if you're trying to find a boyfriend while doing pornography, the odds are good, but the goods are odd. You're gonna end up with a kind of a weirdo guy, and you don't deserve. You should have better guys. You should have guys who will give you a good life
none
and
of
a good
us
family.
are looking.
Yeah.
So
None
what?
of us
It's
are
so
looking.
what?
You're gonna end up with a weirdo guy. Like, that's not true.
If you
That's
no,
just,
if
like,
you date,
not
if
true.
I think the odds of you ending up with like a weirdo, not the kind of guy you'd actually want to be married to, if you start dating him and marry him while you're doing pornography,
I disagree.
is pretty high.
I think the man that if I started dating someone while I'm doing what I'm doing, then they actually accept me for me and all of me and my choices.
Wait,
They do accept certain things that maybe you don't want them to accept 10 years down the line.
I have a question for you. You said you've been romantically involved with a couple NFL players and a couple NBA players, like 5 total.
Yeah, some of them were like really casual, but not like relationship.
So these men, who I assume are in exceptional physical shape, are very high status given the nature of their profession, I assume are well off financially. Obviously, not all NFL players are compensated the same, but why didn't it work with any of them?
Because I didn't want to take anything seriously.
You didn't? You're telling me you didn't want to pursue a long-term romantic relationship with like a less than, I assume these men are, in terms of, if we're looking at their status or their wealth or, top 1% men.
Sure.
Not good enough for you.
I never said that.
Well, I mean,
I said some were casual. One relationship was like a year relationship, and we just didn't see eye to eye, and there were third-party situations that affected that relationship. So we mutually decided, we're like, probably not best.
And let it be known that like NFL
and
NBA players are like literally the scum on the bottom.
Let's let that be known. They're not the top 1%. They're not the top 1%
MLB is a different
anymore.
story, but
Major League Baseball?
Yes.
Where's the NHL guys? What do you think about table?
I would love
table
to meet a
tennis?
good hockey
What's it
guy.
called?
Ping pong?
Like,
You should go with
where are
a
the
ping pong
hockey guys
guy.
at?
Do you know any?
I can talk to me after the show. I'll get you
Oh,
links.
but none of the no. Like
Rugby?
professional.
Any rugby players?
Or
Rugby.
Like I said,
Okay.
I was only
I could get down with
I
a
was
soccer
around
player.
athletes, so that was just like who I was around.
Badminton? Have you considered badminton? I think you should try pro badminton. Badminton.
That's a really
Why
good
can I not
option.
pronounce that
Some
word?
of those guys make hundreds of dollars a
Badminton?
year.
Hundreds
that
of dollars
They
a
do,
year.
yeah.
Huge. Okay, so wait. Will you guys at least acknowledge that by virtue of doing the kind of work you do, it doesn't, you're not going to be changed. How do I properly word this? I don't think it's going to be the case that you'll never find anybody. I don't think that's what we're arguing. But will you at least acknowledge that it is going to close the door for a substantial portion of men that you have
that we don't want either?
Really?
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, really.
Well, you don't want them because they don't want you. But I suspect if you were to look at these men's character, I'm sure you could find them physically attractive. They could meet all your metrics except that they wouldn't want to date you based on your past profession.
Are you saying past profession or if they're currently doing it?
Either.
Both.
Does anyone really want to be with someone who doesn't want them though?
Like that's what I said from the beginning. It's different dating pools.
They would
guys
have
that don't want to
you,
date a sex worker. Obviously, I'm not going to be like, okay, I want you. Like,
but you at least acknowledge that it does close the door to. I can't attribute to what percentage of men it would be, but I think a fairly decent percentage of men, simply by virtue of the work you've done or did, may not want to date you.
Yes.
But you worded that differently last time.
They're not meant for me.
You're saying men that have all the characteristics that I would want, it's because they don't want me. No, I don't want them.
Because you don't want them because they don't want you.
To date a sex worker, and they're not okay with that. That's already like
the morals don't align as is. That's why. Therefore, why even have the interest into somebody?
Do you really think it's a number one prerequisite for your future husband and the father of your children that they have to be really into porn? You don't think that.
Not that they really have to be into porn, but they have to accept the fact that I did porn, and if I'm still doing porn.
But those are different things. Accepting the fact that you did something in your past that perhaps you're not super proud of, but whatever. Versus
who said
but
that?
I'm proud of
Who
like
said that?
Who
said they weren't proud of it? Nobody.
Right, but. If you're like really into it and maybe still doing it, then that's going to attract the kind of guy who's just really into porn. And I don't think that is the top criterion. You say, I want my future husband, the father of my children, to be tall, dark, handsome, rich, and super into porn. You really think that?
They don't have to be. You're talking super extremes here. Nobody said.
I look for more like personality.
Super into porn is a metaphysical quality.
I look for more like personality. I can settle for a medium ugly guy, and his personality is like a freaking 2000. So it's like, at the end of the day, it's not even about like what he has. It's if I get along with him.
Sure. Say stocky, pale, mid, not that rich, but he has to be super into porn.
But you're taking things to a super extreme. He doesn't have to be super into porn. He just has to be accepting of the fact that I was.
If one dates, certainly if one marries someone whose profession is to be a porn actress, that guy is really into porn. That guy is the most into porn you can possibly be.
Or
so what do you characterize? What do you
just really into you?
What do you characterize your work as?
What you do.
What do you do for work?
Disapproves or approves?
What's like your title? Like what do you do for work?
I mostly own the Libs with Facts and Logic, and I occasionally sell cigars.
Okay, so your wife was like, "Oh my god, I'm so into cigars." Like,
he destroys SJW.
She's like, "That's so fucking hot." Like I want to marry him because he's so into cigars.
With Facts and Logic.
The number of times I've heard this from women, I say, "Girls, stop! I'm married. Go away. You can have a cigar, but you can't have me." That's what I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we bring Johnny Sins?
Do you see like
no? My wife.
Side?
Look, my wife certainly. I have a especially that I have a public profession. She's got to be like on board with my job, and this would be true even if I were.
You agree?
So you're saying the same thing that she's saying right now.
You just
your wife
agreed with
needs to be on board with your job, just like who she's going to be with needs to be on board with her job.
But she doesn't have to be super into cigars. That was my point. But she has to be on board with what you do and support you in your career.
Was she prior?
Right.
Was she prior interested in you doing all this public figure media and all these other things?
I've known
I've known Brian, you saw that happen. You saw that. That was pretty good.
So and I met her when I was 10. So we kind of had that going. But it is legitimately a prerequisite of anyone who would marry me, right? That they have to.
Therefore, it was a prerequisite just as ours, that they would accept us for that same reason.
That they would have to be super into porn.